A stubbed toe, a paper cut, the nick of a knife, or the pain of hitting your elbow in just the worst spot. These are all examples of a tiny pain that could be laughed off or send us spiraling into a vortex of sorrow. So, why is it that some hurts hurt more than others? Join us tonight as we chat about pain and why is it so strange.
The program you are about to hear is fiction, science fiction. We make no guarantees, however, how long it will remain fiction, fiction, fiction.
Salutations and happy Friday. It's Ayla here, and today we're going to talk a little bit about pain. I know it's a weird subject, but I'm actually really excited to share a couple of fun little facts with you. And tonight I'm joined by my two lovely co-hosts, Nick and Mike. How are you guys doing tonight?
Good evening.
That
was my answer.
Nice. I'm hanging in there. How you doing, Ayla?
I'm doing okay. Now, the first question is, did you get that salutation was a ow mutation? I tried to exit ow in there.
It was good fun. 10
Oh, good. Oh, thank you. Thank you. So like I said, this is kind of a weird episode, but, the more I was trying to convince myself not to do an exobit on it, the more interesting it got. And to be honest, the inspiration for this week's episode was a little bit comical. Because I had a literal pain in my neck that was super intense for a few hours, and I was just suffering through it. And, had some time to disassociate and think about pain from kind of a mentalist perspective. And so as my mind wandered, I started to think about some of those tinier pains that sometimes hurt more than big pains, like stubbed toes and paper cuts and such. So Nick and Mike, do you guys remember a time when you could have, I don't know, been said to overreact to a small injury or a small pain?
Yeah. When I get hungover, I'm kind of overreacting to a lot of things, and it's like a pretty dull pain. So I shouldn't overreact to things while hungover.
Fair enough.
Nope.
Yeah, I think maybe if when I get a cold, I'm not exactly the toughest about it. That usually is kind of a yeah. I could probably survive, but I feel like dying most of the time. So, but other sort of physical pain, like injury and stuff, not so much. But I do get the hungover thing. That is probably one of the reasons I stopped drinking mostly, just because hangovers were just lasting days instead of one day it started becoming 2 days, and I'm like, nah, can't do it.
Yeah, I had 3 beers last night, and today I woke up and I'm like, why?
Yeah,
why?
exactly.
There's only 3 beers. What's
Right.
happening?
It's so reasonable.
Why am I getting
3
old?
beers over like 5 hours and you're just chatting.
Yeah.
It's the worst. But yeah, no, I hear you guys. And like for me, it's definitely paper cuts. And as someone who's broken bones and not cried about it, for whatever reason, it's those tiny little cuts that just, I don't know, they wound the soul. So to get things started for tonight, I wanted to just define pain, just start there. With a couple nuggets. Now, the International Association for the Study of Pain, it defines pain as an unpleasant sensory and emotional experience associated with actual or potential tissue damage. They note that pain is not just a physical sensation. Pain is also a signal in your nervous system saying something might be wrong. It's an unpleasant feeling similar to a prick, a tingle, a sting, a burn, an ache. And pain may be sharp or dull. It may come and go, or it may be constant. So just starting with that, because it kind of seems like it's mostly a warning system, but there's maybe some other instances. Do you guys have a sense about what other purposes pain might serve us?
Mm, as a reminder, I mean, I think that
Don't drink.
pain. Well,
Wait,
yeah,
Isn't pain just weakness leaving the body?
that's right. It is.
So maybe I should just keep drinking. Just get rid of all the weaknesses
There you
There
go.
it
in
is.
one massive hangover.
Yeah, that lasts for the rest of your life.
Terrible. I think that's
I think
liver
I'm already there.
cirrhosis.
Yeah.
Oh man. Well, so digging a little bit deeper, it seems that there's 4 different types of pain. There's nociceptive pain, which is usually like tissue injuries. There's inflammatory pain. So that's like when you get swelling, sprain your ankle or something. Neuropathic pain, that's nerve irritation. Functional pain, which is pain without obvious origin, but it can cause pain. So that's kind of interesting. And then it just says that pain is complex and defies our ability to establish a clear definition. That's Catherine Weiner, director of the American Academy of Pain Management. She said pain is far more than neural transmission and sensory transduction. It's a complex mixture of emotions, culture, experience, spirit, and sensation, which I thought was kind of interesting to have all those pulled together. I can see how it would be pulled together, but any reactions or thoughts to that definition?
I don't know. I mean, it all makes sense to me.
Yeah.
But
I mean, because
think-
I know I felt wounded to my spirit before.
Yeah.
oh yeah,
Not
well
good.
certainly. Yeah, I think
mean-
that's just kind of like the multiple layers and different types of pain for sure.
Mhm.
I do find it interesting that we have this aversion towards pain, that like we do anything to avoid it. When I think it's sort of like if it happens, it happens. Like I cut my finger on my driver's license, I think, trying to pull it out somewhere, and like every now and then I just get
How
that
sharp is your
sting.
driver's license?
I
Jesus.
know. Did they not cut it right? Did you get a rookie?
I have no idea.
Or
You
is
got like
that
your
one of those
driver's license on a
illegal
Ninja Star or something? What's going on?
it's a secret weapon. It's for crime deterrence. I could throw
Got
it
it.
like a shuriken.
Right.
Like that little sting in the shower, that little sting from like the cut being open, it
Mhm.
makes like a quick little like coffee replacement, like an espresso shot, but with just pain, and it wakes you up a little bit. And I do find it interesting that humans will go to extreme lengths to avoid any bit of pain.
They'll also go to a pretty extreme lengths to feel it.
It's true.
That might be another discussion.
Actually, now we're doing
That's a Monday discussion. Yeah, well, and it's funny because pain is something that a lot of people experience, especially like on the chronic level. I was looking up the stats, and apparently 75 million US residents endure chronic or recurrent pain. Migraines are experienced by 25 million Americans. 1 in 6 suffer from arthritis. I mean, like, that's a lot of just basic level pain, which is something that, like, when I worked at this clinic years ago, you had a lot of people coming in pain, and a lot of them weren't really nice. And so it's like you always had to remember, like, well, they're probably dealing with like a base level 4 pain at any given point. And I know, like, if I have a paper cut, I'm pretty grumpy for that first day while it's healing. So I just thought that was really interesting to think about. Like you were saying, Mike, we go to great lengths to avoid it, but many of us are experiencing it daily anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I know when I get migraines, I can't. That's the one thing that I can't do anything. Like I have to shut down. Like no lights, no sounds, no anything. I have to like try to crawl underground or something.
Yes.
Yeah, but it's not fun to have, and yeah, people deal with it daily, but we avoid it. So seems silly. Seems silly to go out of your way to avoid pain.
Yeah, like it's just going to kind of be inevitable, which is weird because it's also like whenever you're in pain, you remember really well the days when you're not in pain. Like before this shoulder neck injury, I was like thinking about it because I woke up and I was perfectly fine. And it was just in a snap, I started getting this spasm that just jacked everything up. And as I was sitting there, I was like, gosh, I really wasn't excited yesterday about how pain free I was. Like, it's just one
Yeah.
of those things.
Hmm.
It's like when you're sick, you have
Mhm.
like that one clogged nostril when you can finally breathe out of it again. You're just like, yes, it's the best.
My life is just one long clogged nostril. Seriously.
Don't know
I'm
what that
not-
means.
It just means that like literally my entire life, either one side of my nostrils are clogged. It's always that way.
Oh, dude.
Very rarely do I get like two free breathing nostrils.
That's terrible.
Yeah, it's not very fun.
I don't think so. Well,
You may want to go to a doctor about that.
Maybe.
yeah, that could be like an apnea, like a daytime apnea situation, if that exists. It should. I get it. But well, anyway, I wanted to kind of get into some of the more like just fun facts about it because again, if you're listening to this and you yourself have migraines or you might have pain from now and a time and again, um I don't know. I'm just thinking back on the last time I got a tattoo, and it was more painful than I remembered, and I just remembered zoning out. And so there's like this, I don't know, you can just kind of separate and just be curious about it. Sometimes that helps, sometimes it doesn't. But if it does, we're going to launch into some weird facts. So the first one is that the brain itself does not feel pain. So when you stub your toe or you touch something hot, your body releases chemicals that send pain signals up through the spinal cord to receptors in the brain. And then the brain sends the pain message back down to the part of the body that hurts. But although it's the interpreter of pain, it itself does not have pain sensitive nerves. Only the structures that surround the brain feel pain. As a matter of fact, once inside the brain, surgeons can operate on it without any anesthesia. So I thought that was cool. I mean, and it feels weird to me too, because if the brain can't feel what I feel, like, are we the same thing? And should like is my brain as invested in my self-preservation as it would be if it did feel pain? I don't know. I mean, I guess it doesn't need pain receptors, but I don't
Yeah,
know.
I think it would make sense that it doesn't have pain receptors. That would be pretty awful if you think about it. Like anytime you bumped your head, your brain would be like in
Ow.
pain. You know what I mean? Like you think that hangover is bad now. I mean, I couldn't even imagine if your brain could feel the pain as well. I mean, you get things like headache, but that's just kind of like the surface area, nothing subcranial.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
I do think it's interesting. I don't know if necessarily our brain is us. It almost feels like a parasite because your brain will eat the heart muscle over. Like if you starve yourself for a long time, the brain will do anything to keep itself alive.
Right.
It's this very. I do find it in. Yeah, no, it's almost like an adversarial and cooperative force.
That is really interesting. I didn't think about that, but you're right. Like the brain is a parasite because there are a lot of cultures that identify the heart as, I think, like when we did the mummy episode, we were talking about how the heart was king and like the brain wasn't anything special. So
Mhm.
yeah, I wonder if maybe like it's some sort of parasitic worm that came into humans and we used to know, but now we don't know. We think it's everything. That would be an interesting side story.
It's just taking us over. It's like
Yeah.
a little alien, pretty much.
I mean, you know, think about it. Gray matter, grays.
Yeah.
It's
Mhm.
like Krang from Ninja Turtles.
Yeah.
The little
I'm not
brain,
familiar
the
with-
brain guy and the
Yeah.
man, but it's in
Oh,
his
you're
stomach.
right. You're right.
Hmm.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, no, I know. Brains are really weird when you start thinking about it. And like I was thinking too about how like if pain is really intense, you pass out. So like I don't know if that's your brain shutting that off or if that's just like I don't know, some sort of system or whatnot. But I thought that was really weird too. That like, okay, so if your brain doesn't feel pain, but it knows you're feeling pain, it knows that at some point it should turn off your consciousness.
Yeah,
from
that's a little strange.
electrical overload, I think. Because if you think about it, all that
Mm.
pain that the signals just being shot up to the brain over and over and over and over may overload it. Because like the most, I've never passed out from pain, but the most pain I've been in, I was so high that I almost forgot to pay for my tattoo.
Oh no.
I almost just walked out of the tattoo shop because it was done.
Mm.
And yeah, I've never passed it, but I can see where it could be like an overload thing. And like there's
Yeah.
not enough endorphins to cover up the pain receptors that you're feeling.
Right, right. No, that makes sense. And a little bit later down, I have a fun fact about pain thresholds. Well, it's not a fun fact. It's actually really creepy, but we'll get there. So
Cool.
moving along, there's a couple more fun facts. So, one is kind of just funny, I thought, but I also need a little help understanding it because I didn't get the if-then principles. But okay, here goes. It goes if or it may not eliminate the phrase "not tonight, honey," but a 2006 study found that migraine sufferers had levels of sexual desire 20% higher than those suffering from tension headaches. The
Hmm.
findings suggest sexual desire and migraines might be influenced by the same brain chemical, and getting a better handle on the link could lead to better treatments, at least for the pain portion of the equation.
To me, that sounds like a husband responding to his wife who like, no, not tonight, honey. I have a migraine. Actually, did you know that if we had sex right now, your migraine would be gone?
Well, and I was like having a hard time understanding it because I was like, I would think that a tension headache would be helped with sex, but they said a migraine. So I'm like, is that what they're saying?
Yeah. That's what attention. Apparently, a tension headache doesn't have that 20% boost.
So funny. And I watched a Grey's Anatomy episode, like, I don't know what season it was, but there was a guy who, for some reason, painkillers didn't work on him. And so his doctors actually prescribed him porn. So if he was watching porn all day, he would get some like pain relief, which was pretty crazy. But they base a lot of those studies on like real things. So I'm wondering if there's a connection there to this similar study.
Yeah, that sounds pretty bizarre. Well, they also say that redheads need more anesthesia.
Really?
Yeah, in order to go under surgery, they're more tolerant to anesthesia and certain pain medications.
I don't remember any surgeon ever asking me if I was a natural brunette. But I guess
I mean, I don't think
their
that they
form.
have to.
But you can't assume all the time. So I'm just wondering, like, if that's true. Well, anyway, yeah. But I thought that was kind of funny, and especially because like you could tell somebody to, oh well, I need to do some research here, and you need to help me out, or
I need twice the morphine, please.
All the morphine.
Yeah.
Well, the next funny fact was about paper cuts. I myself was really intrigued to find out why. Out that it's because your nerve endings are to blame. So we have more pain receptors in the tips of our fingers than almost anywhere else in our body. And it's also a shallow cut, so it only bleeds a little bit or not at all. And so without a blood clot to protect them, the nerves around the cut are exposed to air, other irritants, which make the pain more noticeable and longer lasting.
That makes sense.
Mm-hmm. So
That
put a
kind of
Band-Aid
reminds
on
me,
it.
right? It kind of reminds me of, have you guys ever done that with like a faucet that, got really, really hot and like you've accidentally touched the water and you can't tell whether it's really cold or really hot until like a couple seconds later?
Yes.
Thermofusion.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That's I always think like to myself like, okay, in a couple seconds I'm gonna either be screaming or
There's a thing you could do if you start to drink a lot of alkaline water and you start to take cold showers. Pain receptors, the way that it travels up to your brain is mainly an acidic reaction. So if you alkalize your blood the best you can through cold showers and drinking alkaline water, you actually feel reduced pain. And I've been able, like, I did this for like maybe like a couple months while I was
Ooh.
actively hurting myself to test because I shouldn't experiment on myself all the time. But
Do what you gotta do.
yeah, right. But I found it to be true. Like either I would bang my hand, like the further away it goes, the further from your brain, the longer it takes to travel, of course.
Mm-hmm.
So I would bang something and it just wouldn't hurt at all. And I was like, that's bizarre. And then
It is
also
very strange.
for, like,
Yeah.
if you have migraines, what you can do, it doesn't work all the time, and I'd be very careful depending on your attraction to pain. I would like pinch my arm or like snap a rubber band a lot of times because the distance, because that pain would override my migraine pain, at least for that short little second. And usually, like, you know, if you cut your leg and you pinch your arm, the arm travel, it's a lot faster for the arm to get to the brain, so it should override it as well. But these are all things, little pain tricks you can try.
That's crazy. It reminds me of like when you're a kid, you get a scab and just like pick at it. And
Oh God, no.
Yeah. I still do that as an adult.
I haven't had a scab in a long while. And I used to feel like scabs were the proof that I was like living life, you know, like skateboarding or surfing or climbing or whatnot. But yeah, no scabs recently, thank goodness. But I'm going to have to try the shower thing because I do stub my toe a lot. And Nick, you might want to do the same. See if this helps. Because that's like, if I could never stub my toe again, I would be so happy. So happy.
It's not even like, you know, I feel like people stubbed their toes a lot more innocently back in the day. Like, I don't know what's going on, but I think stubbing toes is so much more violent now. Like, have you ever gotten your pinky toe caught on something? Like, you walk by your table and then like only your pinky toe gets caught and you nearly just crack it off. Like,
No, I don't.
no, is this only me?
Something's up with your pinky toe, boo. Like you're always whacking that thing on something, and it's audible.
Be separated from my body. It's just
you're the next stage of evolution.
Apparently, yeah. We're gonna stub our toes so much that we just lose a couple of them.
Mine was always the big toe. I always stubbed my big toe.
Oh man.
I feel at this point my big toe could probably kick like a stucco wall and be fine, but the other toes,
especially that pinky toe.
Yeah, dude, it's bizarre. It's a bizarre.
Oh, I love it. I absolutely love it. Well, moving on to another type of pain. Do you guys ever struggle with brain freeze?
No.
Yep.
You get it? Okay. I don't know if you're in the show notes now because I'm gonna butcher this word. Technically, the proper term for brain freeze is sphenopalatine ganglion neuralgia.
Yeah.
That's what it's called. And
sphenopalatine. Yeah. Sphenopalatine.
I almost said sphenopalpatine.
Yeah. Looks like it.
But it's the pain receptors in the mouth that signal to the brain, but it's the same nerves. Wait, hold on. Let me read this correctly. The pain receptors in the mouth signal to the brain. However, the same nerves are also in the forehead. So the brain mixes up the source location of the pain, and thus you get that resulting headache. Which gets back to what you were saying, Mike, about like an injury on your arm versus your foot and like the way it travels and stuff, which I forget that we have this little system where things are traveling, little freeways or whatnot. So I thought that was kind of funny.
No, it is. Because anytime I eat ice cream or those Slurpees from 7-Eleven, I get brain freeze. I've never learned my lesson.
Yeah, I think it's with the liquidy ice cold things. Like I usually get it if my water's too cold and I'm like chugging it and I'm just like, oh, I did way too much. So there you go, guys. That's the reason for that. Now another one, again, speaking about nerves, is about rubbing alcohol. Whenever that's applied to cuts, the reason it hurts so much is that it's exposed VR1 nerve cells that are in the cut, and they're actually designed to detect burning hot temperatures. And so they have their pain threshold lowered by alcohol so much that your own body temperature actually causes that burning sensation. Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Isn't that weird?
I wonder if that's the same with local anesthetics, because The when I got my hand operated on, the worst part of the pain was getting the anesthetic shot in there.
Mhm.
We also like cleansed the wound a little bit, and it was just felt.
Oh,
I
yeah.
felt all of
Ooh.
my tendons just
Yeah.
light on
Ooh.
fire.
Yeah, I think you're
Oof.
yeah, you might be onto something because like my I had my brow split open from surfing and I needed stitches and it was like she had to take this ginormous needle and inject the anesthetic directly inside the open wound. I wasn't prepared for that. I thought they go around, but they go like they stab you right in the heart of it. Um,
Mhm.
yeah, and it definitely burned. I remember sitting there like, oh, this is quite painful.
Yeah, the doctor was expecting me to like curse her out or something. It's like, no, it just hurts a lot.
Yeah. Not that I would know, but I hear that morphine also burns. So
Oh,
might
I
be
have
something to
heard
that.
that. I think that's really in like a famous movie or something. What like Private
Oh,
Ryan?
I don't know. Maybe.
No,
Yeah,
I
Saving Private Ryan. There's a lot of morphine in that movie.
mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Hey, that makes sense though, right?
Yeah, I mean, I guess just yeah, anytime they're exposed like that, yeah, then let's see. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I could see it all being in that same thing. I just think it's so weird that your own body temperature causes it. Like I don't know. Maybe if you ice the area, then put alcohol, maybe that's the fix. I don't know. We'll
Maybe.
see. Well, one last little random thought was platypus venom. Apparently, it's non-lethal to humans, but it can cause excruciating pain for months, and even morphine will have no effect in relieving the pain, which I thought was really crazy. Like, it's a messed up superpower for the platypus to have, and B, a really horrible lack of defense on our part to not be able to protect against that.
Well, I mean, honestly, why would we ever need to defend ourselves against a platypus? To be honest, like,
You gotta be
really
careful, man. They're pretty crazy.
I mean,
See, the X-Fight wants you to remember it for so long. It's not a
Yeah.
threat. It just wants.
Right.
It just wants some painful.
I mean,
love.
like, but like even people in Australia don't see platypus all that often. So I mean, like, I don't know. But yeah, they're little. They have the barbs on their hands. So
Oh,
basically, it's like it's a barb on their hand, and that if you
They
get hit
slap
by
you?
that, yeah, if you get hit by that, that's it's no good.
Such noble and majestic creatures.
They really are
The
God's
humble
mistakes.
nobody ever suspects the platypus. Well, getting on to like some weird science. This is a trip too. And this is really sad, guys. Like I just trigger warning because this is so messed up. Until 1987, heart surgeries and other surgeries were performed on babies with no anesthesia because it was commonly believed that babies couldn't feel pain. And they were even
What a
given
ridiculous position.
Whoa.
they were even given
Whoa.
muscle relaxants to keep them from thrashing during the operation.
Oh my god, dude.
1987, guys. Like
Who was the first person to be like, do you think babies feel pain?
Yeah, exactly. Like,
yeah, who in their right? I had to point that out because I was like, wow, if you're a doctor listening to this and you think we're really stupid, that's fine. But remember this, like if something feels off, just
yeah,
raise
they're
your
probably
hand.
like cutting open a baby's chest, and then one
Oh,
of the
God.
assistants is like, doctor, the baby's crying, and they're like, nah, they're always crying. Don't worry about it. They don't feel anything.
Yeah.
They don't
Good
remember
Lord.
anything
I just-
before the
They
age
don't
of 3. They'll be fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I really
mean, like,
honestly think that that's the reason, is because they just figure, oh, they won't remember it anyway, so who cares?
well, and I want to see the longitudinal study. Like, where are all the adults that got operated on as babies before 1987? Like,
Mm.
like they probably have some tremendous body trauma going on with them because you know how like the
would
body
imagine.
stores it and stuff. So,
Mhm.
wait. Well, so going on into the weird science route, there was a study in 2010, and you'll like this one, Mike. There was a robotics expert at a university in Slovenia, because I can't pronounce the name. They created a robot solely purposed to punch humans in the arm to test their pain thresholds so that future robots can comply to the first law of robotics, which is to do no harm to humans.
Sure. So that they can comply to the rule.
Right.
Not so we know how much force to apply to punch right through them, but
But could you imagine the mad scientist behind the wall, like, turn
Yeah.
it up a notch? This robot just
Yes.
punching people?
I swear, like at the end, it's like I swear this was a bug. Robot just punching
Yeah.
heads off.
right.
Yeah, I thought that was a pretty funny little thing. So now moving more in, well, did you guys want to say anything about weird science? Any sciencey things to share on your end?
I don't think.
No.
I don't. I think if I made an AI, I wouldn't. I think I would make it incapable of feeling pain.
It's probably maybe good. I don't know. It depends on whether you link the ability to feel pain with empathy.
Mm.
I don't know if there is a course, because I've seen people afflicted by pain not become empathetic toward other
Mm.
people's pain, but instead become more callous.
Yeah, I think that not all people who experience pain are empathetic, but most empathetic people experience pain. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
so,
Mm.
yeah, I think that there's kind of like, there's a loose correlation there. Who knows? I mean, I'm sure you could find some sort of backdoor coding to fix that.
That poor
Right,
robot. All it was designed to do was punch.
I know.
Looks like the butter retriever from Rick and Morty. Like, what is your purpose?
Yeah,
You punch people in the arm. Oh
Yeah.
my god. Yep.
Right. Yeah.
Welcome to your
Dude,
existence.
yeah. Oh, poor robot. No
Poor
wonder
robot.
they turned.
Poor robot. Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's terrible. No, it's good. It's good. And it's fun that you bring in the empathy component, because we're about to get into pain and emotion. So just a couple facts here. So one thing is, when ignored by the person whose attention means the most to you, the reaction in your brain is similar to that of physical pain,
hmm
which is interesting. The brain doesn't know a difference between physical and emotional, which is kind of weird, especially because there's another study that says in addition to aches and pains, Tylenol can alleviate psychological pain like social rejection.
But if you take too many of them, your
Yeah.
liver ends up dead.
Yeah.
That's true.
So-
But could you imagine if like somebody like emotionally wounds you and you're like, I'm gonna go take a Tylenol.
I mean,
Well,
like,
and I
Try
think,
it.
right?
I think it's just kind of like it's a symptom of the brain not being able to fully register the depth of emotional pain. And so it's just like, pain, gonna make you feel bad in your stomach now. You know what I mean? Like,
Pain.
yeah,
Yeah.
it just doesn't understand like the nuance of like, losing somebody that you love, or like that, being rejected or whatever, like it's just like, you feel bad, okay, you're gonna feel bad in your stomach or your heart or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, it would explain my unrequited love high school years, like just all the emo mental pain.
Mhm.
I think
No, it's true. I think
Like,
the last
I'm curious
go ahead.
about. Sorry, I'm curious about the. My brain was just running, so I just wanted to get it out. The curious
Go.
about depression and emotional pain. If the brain is more if depressed people are more sensitive towards emotional pain than say somebody who doesn't suffer from depression.
Mhm.
I wonder if there's something there with that. And
Well,
like,
there's,
the depths of pain as well, as you were saying, Nick.
Mhm.
If there's a difference there.
Right.
Yeah. Well, there was a study. Let's see. I took it out because it was kind of sad, but I do know that folks with chronic pain, that can damage your brain over time because of the constant brain activity in areas that should normally be at rest. So, it can be demoralizing. It can be debilitating to have chronic pain. But there's actually studies that showed that it can damage your brain. And so that some people with like chronic backaches have as much as 11% smaller brains than non-sufferers. That was like a study in 2004. So I'm sure if it goes the opposite way, where you're like going through a lot of emotional trauma through like a depression, then yeah, you compound that and your brain's just on overload. It's
And
probably
then deteriorates because it's being overused.
Mm-hmm.
And the next one you get into psychological regression, right? I would
Mhm.
imagine, or some sorts of like that, or like
Oh yeah.
your brain and your cognitive ability starts to shut down. I guess
Oh yeah.
like the same way
yeah.
that physical pain causes you to black out. If you have like an
Mhm.
emotional blackout point.
Mm-hmm. Well, and they have like studies too that say if you're really like if your brain's doing that shutdown, it can show up as like chaos or rigidity, and like your linear thinking gets really like off. So yeah, there's a lot of really interesting studies that are like really recent about that. And then just going back to what Nick was saying with like uh, body pain and emotional pain in your brain mixing up the signals and stuff, like it makes me think of the brain freeze because you know it's like what is it? It's something with your mouth, but then it's getting confused because of the same location, so it triggers it to your head, and then you have like a pain in your psyche, but your brain doesn't really know where to send that out. And
Mhm.
so there are studies that say like if you're a little bit depressed, you can actually have more risk of like chronic pain, or that they're really linked, the two of them.
Well, I mean, they used to say all the time, people died of broken hearts,
Mm.
Broken
and
heart syndrome.
yeah, and so it's only lately in our more modern era that we don't necessarily say that anymore. But I don't necessarily think that you couldn't. Like
Mhm.
I think that it's very emotional pain and physical pain are very closely attached, and I think your body responds to the same way to both.
Yeah.
So
Well, and that's a really good point about like that threshold. So much pain, and then your body's like, oh, I'm done.
mhm.
So there's a CIA handbook that taught some torture methods, and apparently it stressed the importance of psychological over physical torture.
Mhm.
And the threat of inflicting pain triggered fears more damaging than the pain itself because people often underestimated their capacity to withstand pain.
Mm.
So, one, like that's pretty messed up, right? Like you can threaten somebody with some torture and that psychological threat is like going to be bigger in their mind. But also, the last line kind of freaks me out because it's like, well, as long as you don't die, you are going to suffer the torture. So, the fact of people underestimating their capacity to withstand pain, like that's a kind of like a messed up gray area. Do you know what I mean?
I think that also it's that like there's a level of apathy that you get with pardon me. There's a level of apathy that you get with physical pain after a certain point. It's like
Mm.
you kind of just get beaten down. I don't know. I think maybe that level is further down the road for emotional and psychological pain. So
Hmm.
Oh, you
I just
definitely get there.
you
The
definitely do get there for sure, but I just think that you can probably go a little bit longer, you
Yeah,
know.
the end goal of psychological torture, I think, is obvious. Well, the goal of torture in that like intelligence setting is to pull something out of you, right?
Mhm.
But I think the goal in general with psychological torture is to create a submissive being. Like you're
Right.
trying to break the
Mhm.
spirit of a dog, so to say.
Mhm.
Mm.
And with the dog, you do it physically. You just keep beating the dog until its spirit is broken, and then it never wags its tail again or whatever. But
Someone really
for
nice comes along.
but for
That's a sad story.
humans, if you keep breaking them down psychologically, they do get to a point where they're like childlike, where
Mhm.
they're now moldable and you can do kind of whatever you want. And it makes sense that psychological torture is far more effective than physical torture.
Yeah.
And just the idea of avoiding pain as well, like that builds
Mm.
into the idea that you're not tough enough to deal with it,
Mm.
you know. Um,
Yeah,
which is
no, that's
funny. Like it
interesting.
makes sense in men because men don't like women. Just, they have to give birth, so their pain tolerance is beyond men already. So that's why I'm interested too in how the genders break down.
Oh, you wanna know? I was looking at that. God hates women. We have like so like what is it? There's a line in this article I read and it was like men men can't imagine the pain of childbirth, but then it was like no, they literally can't because women have something like 4 times the number of nerve bundles, so like they feel more pain than men ever could, on top of
But you also
having an
feel more
actual
love
uterus.
and joy.
Oh yeah, there's that.
Well, no, I mean, but
But
that's
when
the
I
trade-off.
stub my toe, it's like 4 times worse than when you stub your toe. So I just want you all to
Okay, well, we can
recognize
have a
that.
competition about it.
I didn't put that in. It came up organically, but no, I
Oh,
wasn't gonna go there. But
Jerry.
yeah.
So one other thing was, obviously we all know about the placebo effect. And there was a study in 2008 where some patients received a really painful electric shock, and then they were given a placebo pill. And for 64% of the participants, oh, okay, this is weird. This is as like a dollar amount. So afterwards, 10-cent placebo pills were given to test subjects, which alleviated pain for about 64% of the participants. But then a $2.50 placebo pill reduced pain for 85% of participants.
Mhm.
Capitalism.
Well, it's the whole concept of you don't want to buy something cheap, right?
Yeah.
And if it's cheap, you don't think it works right.
But if it's like really kind of more pricey, you're like, oh, well, no,
That
this
must work.
must
It's more
work. It's a
expensive.
better one.
Yeah.
Always buy generic.
Yeah.
Let's see. So then back to what Mike was saying, there is a study that says swearing can increase your pain tolerance and reduce the fear of being in pain. So if you're feeling it, just cuss up a storm.
Just use the F word. Just say fuck. That's
say
the
it.
best word. Because you can use it for one sentence over and over and over again, and it's just like you're mainlining morphine through the fuck.
It's true. Yeah, that's a good word. I'm trying to think. When I broke my hand, there were a lot of words said. I think that was one of them. Also, don't discount the word shit. Sometimes just shit is like a really good swear word. So that was a good one. And then there's a doctor that talked about minimizing pain by doing tricks. I'm guessing like magic tricks. But he said one of his patients got 6 stitches on her head and didn't even realize it was happening because he was distracting her so much.
Mhm.
So I think that's one of the things too about pain is if you notice it, you're going to feel it more, but you can actually like distract yourself and not notice it as much. Which I don't know what that's about. Cause like, okay, so your brain doesn't feel pain. If you focus on it, it will, but if you don't focus on it, it might not. I don't know. Does that?
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, if you're not aware of it, if your mind is somewhere else, I can see where it might take a little bit to become aware of the pain, or like there might be
And
a
that's what they do
threshold.
with babies and shots, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they distract the baby and then give them the shot, and they can kind of barely respond to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
so I
Babies are a
think-
little bit different though, because like whenever
Oh, they don't
cry-
feel pain. I forgot.
Yeah, they
Oh,
don't-
God,
they
no,
don't-
it's 2020.
they only feel the most painful thing. Like every time a baby cries because of pain, it's the most painful experience they've had in their whole life. Right?
Mm.
Aw.
Because they're just so tiny. But yeah, I do find the distraction thing like that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. But also too, crying also causes some neurological and hormonal shifts in your body that can help you feel calmer and less tense. So I've heard that like sometimes if you're having body pain, like a neck pain or back pain or whatnot, it's good to put that patient in a happier state of mind or let them just cry it out because that helps kind of release whatever you need, like the hormones or whatnot, to calm down, and then let those muscles relax.
Mhm.
Yeah, crying is a good tool for relieving a lot of pains.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have a whole section about crying, but I'm just looking at the time. I wanted to keep this kind of short, and I hope that was kind of interesting. Again, the point was just to observe pain and think about the weirdness, and maybe get some ideas for coping. If you yourself are feeling some kind of way, you could cry it out. You could use humor and tricks. Take Tylenol. buy yourself a really expensive placebo, or you can even turn it into creative fuel. So,
Or
so
be a baby.
or be baby about it. Yeah. Except the doctors will not treat you kindly if you travel back in time. So stay in this century and be well. And that's all I got for today.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Ayla. That was a great conversation. Really appreciate it. And thank you guys so much for listening. We hope that you like that conversation. Please let us know what you thought. Give us some feedback if you feel so inclined. Perhaps even give us a follow on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Exofathom. Give us a follow there. We have 14 subs strong, so we are really looking forward to growing that channel to maybe 20. Let's see if we can get to 20. But yeah, anyways, we appreciate it regardless. And if you're listening to this, thank you very much, and we hope that you enjoyed this. And yeah, until next time, Cognonauts, stay out there, and we will see you on the next Exofathom. Good night.
Peace.
Later.